So I tried to find a higher resolution version of the Made Niggas video, the original cut, but unfortunately I haven't been able to do that yet. I found a copy of Made Figgaz that was a recut for the gang-related film that Tupac was in with Jim Belushi. So I'm going to share that one with you, but I can still tell the story of all that went down. Made Figgaz, Made Niggas was the most stressful experience I've ever had as a producer or a director, and I'll tell you why. So the idea was I had convinced Tupac to do a living documentary and wanted to film him wherever I possibly could. In certain places he let me to film him, either on set, at the crib, or in the studio, and that's where all the One Nation footage came from. For this video, he came up with the idea of not only shooting a video with a narrative attached to it, sort of like a short film, and the idea was that Piggy and Puffy characters had come to LA and started a coke lab, and the short film basically entailed Pac on the Outlawz prepping, getting their police riot gear together, raiding the spot, taking them out, and taking over. When I worked as a producer back then, I would basically map out what it would take to shoot the creative. In other words, if we wrote a treatment, I would map it out, what we would need for crew, equipment, gear. And for that particular video, it was sort of like we were shooting movie scenes because there were stuntmen, there were squibs, which are the explosions that fake a gunshot, there were guns, there were blanks. There had to be safety officers, police, firemen. I mean, it was the whole works. We were basically shooting some film scenes. I had budgeted out and I had asked for 3 days. Unfortunately, the message that was conveyed to Pac was 3 days, and Pac had said no, he wanted to do it in 2 days. So my partner at the time had sort of said, we have to do what Pac wants to do. And I was like, this is going to be a complete shit show because we don't have enough time to prep. We don't have enough time to film. And the prep was taking a little too long. Something was going to go wrong, and something did. Essentially, the stuntman, the guys that were operating the guns and the squibs were doing their normal prep, whatever they had to do to make sure they were safe and no one got hurt. But unfortunately, it was one of those situations where Pac was losing his patience. Sitting around in a trailer and drinking and smoking was not enough for him. He needed to be doing what he wanted to be doing there. And he even said at one point, this is just a music video. It's not a film, not realizing that we were shooting basically film scenes in any event. So we were prepping. We finally got ready to shoot, or film, I should say, which would be more apropos. And we were on set. And one of the stuntmen was this big, buff, older dude from the south side of Chicago. And he was just getting ready. And Muta was standing next to him. And back then, Muta was like a pit bull. He was a fuseless pit bull that would pounce. Pit bull. He was a fucking pit bull. And him and the stuntman started getting into a verbal situation. And, Muta was like, yo, hurry up, dude. And the guy got offended. And he was like, whoop-de-whoop. I'm from the south side of Chicago. I don't need no one talking to me like that. And then the next thing you know, Muta was on top of him and they were punching. 2 minutes later, Pac, the Outlawz, they were all on top of him. And it was a massive fight. I remember going in there and pulling them off one by one, and I held the guy up against the wall and I had my arms on either side of him and everyone else was behind me, and I was like, dude, they're gonna kill you. And he's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm an ex-Marine. I'm Southside, blah, blah, blah. And during all of that, someone turned the lights off. It was one of the crew members, and I automatically hit the floor. I may not be a gunslinger, but I had my share amount of scraps working as a bartender, and so I hit the floor. Lights came on, and I remember seeing Pac surrounded by death row security guards with their guns drawn, and my partner at the time, Tracy, was standing there with a gun pointing straight at her. I grabbed her arm and I pulled her to the floor. Then we heard that the stuntman had ran out and he was gone to get his gun. And as all this was happening, they rushed Pac and the Outlawz in a limo and they just bounced. The shoot was done. And then the guy came looking for them with a gun, and it was a done deal. you're seeing some behind the scenes stuff that I found online of what was going down, and it shows the tension. The tension. There's a part when Pac's like, "What the fuck's taking so long?" And at that point, I just lost it. I'd worked, I don't know how many hours, how many days trying to make this thing happen when I knew it was a recipe for disaster. And at the end, I was like, kill me, do whatever you got to do. And then I went over there and we kind of worked it out. He kind of laughed at me, and we finally got on set. I think he thought I was nuts for saying kill me. But when I got to his trailer, he made me wait outside for a few minutes, and then he let me in. And then I apologized, and then, he sort of smirked at me and said, let's go shoot this. We went to film it, and then that's when all hell broke loose. So, Made Figgaz, Made Niggas, that was a doozy of a video. Next up, hit him up.